The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv at hotmail.com, our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour, X-Zone Nation, is Laird Scranton, and Laird is an independent software designer who became interested in Dogon mythology and symbolism in the early 1990s. He has studied ancient myth, language, and cosmology for nearly 10 years and has been a lecturer at Colgate University. He also appears in John Anthony West Magical Egypt DVD series, and he lives in Albany, New York. He's the author of, The Science of the Dogon, Decoding the African Mystery Tradition, Sacred Symbols of the Dogon, The Key to Advanced Science in Ancient Egyptian Hieroglyphics, and his new book is entitled The Cosmological Origins of Myth and Symbol, From the Dogon and Ancient Egypt to India, Tibet, and China. Joining me now is Laird Scranton. And Laird, welcome to the X-Zone.
Well, Rob, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
By the way, congratulations on your new book. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where your interest in the Dogons and the mystery surrounding them came from.
Okay, well, I grew up on the west coast of the United States and in Portland, Oregon, which is a fairly open-minded, has a reputation for being a very open-minded place. I had always been interested in unsolved mysteries, and my wife one time gave me a book called Unexplained by Jerome Clark.
Oh, yeah, that was a great book.
It's a great book, and each chapter of that book has to do with some unresolved mystery, and one of the chapters devotes itself to this little tribe called the Dogon, who seem to know some things about astronomy that they shouldn't know, things that they oughtn't be able to know without the aid of a powerful telescope. And so I started pursuing them, wanted to know a little bit more about them, and discovered that this living tribe in Africa, in Mali, in sort of the bulge of Africa in the west, represents a kind of a crossroads for a bunch of ancient traditions. They wear, prayer shawls and skull caps like are done in Judaism. They celebrate a Jubilee year. They circumcise their young. They follow many of the ancient Egyptian civic traditions. They found their cities in pairs called upper and lower. They follow the Egyptian calendars, things like that. And they also have many traditions that are very similar to ancient Buddhism. And so I realized the more I got into this that this is a very interesting culture to get to know, because being that they're a living culture, they might be able to tell us some things that we don't know about the ancient cultures.
That's very interesting, because didn't they also, weren't they responsible for the discovery of one of the planets way before telescopes were ever invented?
Well, that's been a little bit disputed. They knew some things about the stars of Sirius. They knew that Sirius is not a single star like our sun. It actually consists of at least two stars, a big sun-like star and a little star that is more a dwarf star that you can't see. And they knew the orbital period of the two stars around each other. And the anthropologists who studied the Dogon said that they had known those facts for at least 400 years. But scientists who were skeptical of the Dogon's knowledge claimed that they probably got their information from some modern visitor.
All right, stand by, Laird. You and I have to take our break here. We'll be back in 2 minutes. X-Zone Nation. It's going to be an interesting hour, as it always is here in the X-Zone. My special guest this hour is Laird Scranton. For more information on Laird, visit redroom.com/members/Laird Scranton, and that's LAIRD SCRANTON. We're talking about the Dogons this hour here on the X-Zone as we continue with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go away. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
Hello, I'm Justina Marsh, and with my dad Pete, we are going to present a new show called Too Good to Be True. Together, we are aiming to discover more truths about this world and beyond. Do you have unanswered questions about the world? Do you ever wonder about aliens, conspiracy theories, or the universe? There are many shows discussing subjects such as pyramids or UFOs, but we want to relay this information based on our own research, including from spiritual means. Hopefully, listeners will be helped with their own beliefs and will appreciate the psychic insights that add to the previous research and information. We both look forward to sharing this insight and beginning this journey with our listeners. Visit xzbn.net for more information about when to listen.
We're talking about the Dogons this hour on the X-Zone, a mysterious group of people. They would be classified as living ancients, Laird?
Yes, I would say that they preserve a very ancient tradition, and they preserve it fairly intact. You can compare what they say to what ancient Buddhists said, and it's point for point the same information. So they've done a good job of preserving it.
What effect on history, on archaeology, on the past has the Dogon people had with us? For example, the information that they've related to us through their history. How does that affect us today?
Well, there's a great potential in studying Dogon religion because it's cast in all of the archetypical myths and symbols of the ancient mythologies, the spiraling coils and the serpents and the clay pots. But the advantage is that there are living Dogon priests who have a good grasp of what their symbols mean to them. And we can compare what the Dogon priests say to say what is written in an Egyptian hieroglyphic dictionary or in Egyptian texts or in books about Buddhism. And start to get a better understanding of what these symbols actually represent. So the first thing is we can learn a lot about ancient cultures from the Dogon. The second thing is that their religion is cast in ancient Egyptian words, basically ancient Egyptian terms. And each one of these terms carries at least two levels of meaning, such that, the meanings are disconnected from each other such that you can't guess the meaning of the second meaning based on knowing the first meaning. So, for example, their tribal god Amma is considered a hidden god, but his name also means to grasp or to hold firm. So these terms are very important because now you can go to an Egyptian hieroglyphic dictionary and find the same words pronounced the same way with these same two disconnected meanings, and you know you've got an exact lock on a match. There's no disputing it because those meanings are so varied from each other.
How many gods or deities do the Dogons actually acknowledge and, pray to?
The Dogon actually only have one deity that you would consider who rises to the level of a god in Egypt. They have a number of other mythological characters and players in their mythology who are counterparts, likely counterparts to various Egyptian gods. But in the Dogon culture, they don't rise to the level of a god. They're just a character in a story or a generic sort of placeholder or symbol. For example, where the Egyptians have the 8 Aeneid gods who emerge, who emerge in pairs, the Dogon have 8 ancestors who are more generic, who also emerge in pairs. So there are parallels back and forth, but it's as if the Dogon system represents a very early version of the Egyptian. As a matter of fact, so early it looks like it falls just about before dynastic Egypt times, before the appearance of writing in Egypt and before things really got going in Egypt.
Is there a connection between the Dogons and any other civilization that we are aware of at this time?
No, the Dogon... the Dogon are known to have moved to where they live right now. They live in a very inhospitable region of Mali along an escarpment, a big cliff in the desert that gets to be 115 degrees in February.
Wow.
So it's a very inhospitable place, and they deliberately moved there. It's almost as if a group of priests had decided that in order to preserve their tradition in the form that it was in, they deliberately set out to find a place that was as far disconnected from contact with anybody else as possible. And there are other ancient tribes that have done the same thing. You see it happening among North American Indians, and you see it happening with priestly tribes in Tibet and China and places like that. It seems like this is a tradition that was not uncommon in those days. But the Dogon had moved from North Africa, which is a known home to ancient Buddhism. But whereas you would expect to have a Buddhist system explained by words that are out of the languages that come out of India, the Dogon system is explained in words that come out of ancient Egypt.
Exonation, our special guest this hour is Laird Scranton, and we're talking about the Dogon people. And Laird is the author of several books, the Science of the Dogon, Decoding the African Mystery Tradition. He's also the author of Sacred Symbols of the Dogon, The Key to Advanced Science in the Ancient Egyptian Hieroglyphics, and his new book, The Cosmological Origins of Myth and Symbol, From the Dogon and Ancient Egypt to India, Tibet, and China. Looking back, here we've got the Dogons who have they have lived and they continue to live, and they're a wealth of information. How do they maintain their information? Is it passed down from one person to the next, or is it actually recorded somehow?
Well, it is. It's recorded in a very interesting way. In fact, what I found from studying a fairly wide number of ancient cultures, the ones who seem to have preserved it in the best form, in the most complete form, are the ones who never developed a system of writing. And the Dogon don't have a system of writing. They seem to have left Egypt. If they originally lived in Egypt, they seem to have left Egypt before writing appeared. But the Dogon preserve their knowledge in the same way that Buddhism preserves its knowledge. It's a mnemonic system where they have, it actually begins with a ritual-aligned structure that's very much like a Buddhist stupa, that each phase of construction of this ritual structure recreates some aspect of their religious tradition. It sort of mimics the processes of creation, of how they feel the world was created or the universe was created. And so if you can remember how to build the structure, then you can recreate all of the key aspects of the religious tradition.
Have the Dogons made any significant contribution to any of the sciences or any other facet that we can look back and say that came from the Dogons, like the Egyptians have? We've got the pyramids, we've got the Sphinx, we've got great leaders like Akhenaten, King Tut, and so on. We've got the hieroglyphics. So what significance have the Dogons brought forth?
Okay, that's a tricky question. When you get to the bottom of the Dogon system, the Dogon religion, what you find is their priests say that their religion describes how their tribal god created matter. And as I began reading about it and studying about it, I could see they start talking about matter from the top down. They talk about something that's very similar to an atom that makes up all the things in the universe, made from recurring elements of the same type to produce an object. They had the definition of an atom correct. They had definitions of protons, neutrons, and electrons correct, and they drew a correct picture of an electron orbit. And so I said to myself, well, gee, if they have the two top components of matter properly defined, what are the chances that the rest of their system, as you move down from there, could be correct?
All right, I have to ask you at this time, where did they get this knowledge?
They say, and almost every culture that I've studied that has the same system says, that if you get down to the bottom of it, they say that they learned it from someone who knew more than they did. They learned it from knowledgeable, what they call ancestors / teachers.
Fascinating.
If you go to Buddhism, you get to the bottom of it, and it always comes down to a non-human source. In Buddhism, the most sacred symbols are deemed to have been given to humanity by a non-human source.
Are we talking extraterrestrials?
Could be. It's not really specified. It only goes so far as to say that someone who knew a lot more than the Dogon did seems to have performed a kind of Peace Corps effort, a global Peace Corps effort to raise us up to a level of civilization from a previous level.
What's the connection between the Dogons and the Egyptians?
It looks to me as if the Dogons were Egyptian at the boundary between the pre-dynastic and dynastic Egypt. It looks to me that they actually were Egyptian, and that a group of informed priests deliberately left Egypt and moved off as a way out, almost as if you would make a backup copy of something important on your computer. This group of priests left, formed a tribe, and found a locale that was remote where they could protect and preserve this body of knowledge that they were in charge of.
It's as if they're an offshoot. So can we actually say that the Dogon tribe has its roots in Egyptology?
We can't say that definitely. We can only say there's a lot of evidence that makes it look as if that's true. But because there are no written records, we can't say absolutely and for certain that the Dogon were Egyptian.
All right, but when it comes to the Dogon language, the Dogon dialect, is there any similarity that we can find or establish and draw a line to the Egyptians?
The Dogon language consists of a number of other sub-languages that have been sort of adopted and conglomerated together. And it's the words of their cosmology, the words of their religion that I'm most concerned with. And that subset of words seem to be ancient Egyptian words. Every key term of that subset of their language ties back to Egyptian hieroglyphic words.
Laird, please stand by. We have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation Laird Scranton is our special guest. redroom.com/members/Laird Scranton, and we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as the X-Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies,
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows,
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
Exonation Laird Scranton is our special guest. redroom.com/members/Laird Scranton, and we're talking about the Dogons, Laird's new book, The Cosmological Origins of Myth and Symbol, from the Dogon and ancient Egypt to India, Tibet, and China. Tell me, why did you think that the Dogons have been able to talk about atoms, photons, all the other scientific elements that we were talking about in the first part of the show, and yet this information, if they did come from Egypt, hasn't been talked about by the Egyptians?
Well, all of the information that is key to the Dogon religion also exists in ancient Egypt, and one of the ways that I've been able to demonstrate that is by tracing each of the Dogon terms that are used to define the system, and go to an Egyptian hieroglyphic dictionary and show that the same meanings assigned to the same pronunciations in Egypt. And it goes beyond that, because each of these terms is associated with a drawing, a cosmological drawing that the Dogon priests make, that they draw with a stick in the sand. And those shapes of those drawings are very often the same shape as Egyptian hieroglyphs. And so one of the offshoots of these studies is a new approach to reading Egyptian hieroglyphic words. When I realized that each symbol associates with a concept, I decided to try find out what would happen if you substituted the Dogon concept for the Egyptian glyph shape in a word and read the concepts out as if they were a sentence. And what I found was that each Egyptian word really represents a symbolic sentence. For instance, the Egyptian word for week is written with two glyphs, one that is the Egyptian sun glyph, which represents the concept of a day, and the second glyph is the Egyptian number 10. And so the word reads symbolically 10 days, and that's the definition of an Egyptian week. When you go to the Egyptian word for month, it says the moon makes an orbit. You look at the Egyptian word for seasons, and it says 3 arcs of the Earth's orbit around the sun. And the Egyptians had a 3-season year.
But earlier you were talking and telling us about how the Dogons, they were aware of, or that the information came to them from their deity, pertaining to an atom and then a photon. And yet, to the best of my knowledge, the ancient Egyptians didn't have this knowledge. So why is it that the Dogons came out with this information
Okay, the Dogon have it, the Dogon priests have it, and they preserve it in the form of their religion.
Right.
But that's not the same as saying that they have scientists and technicians in their society who are acting on this knowledge.
Oh, I understand that, and I appreciate that. But how come the priests in Egypt also didn't share this information?
They did. From what I can see, they did. And in a lot of ways, I think that many of the symbols in Egypt have been misinterpreted or only partially interpreted. A lot of these symbols have more than one viewpoint that you can look at them from. The Dogon mythology represents several creational processes simultaneously. They use one set of symbols to define how matter is created, how biological reproduction has happened, and how the universe was formed, using the same single set of symbols. And they correlate the various phases of these processes to these symbols in a particular sequence. So the Dogon know about, they have a myth that talks about the creation of the universe in terms that are similar to the Big Bang. And they even go to explain how it was that what the universe was like before the Big Bang happened. They envision it as if two black holes were facing each other and feeding matter into a central point. It was sort of held in stasis and spun faster and faster and faster until there was so much matter spinning so fast that it ruptured and created the explosion of the Big Bang.
Why do you think so much of what we call ancient wisdom has been lost, or has it been suppressed?
No, I wouldn't say that it's been suppressed. And as a matter of fact, when you get down, these traditions are thought of as secret traditions. It's called the esoteric tradition. But the truth of the matter is that any tribe member in the Dogon tribe, male or female, can choose to study the cosmology and learn about it, and there's no obstacle put in the way of their doing it. But the way the tradition works is the student has to ask the next question. And if the student doesn't get around to asking the next pertinent question, then the priest doesn't lead them farther than that. The priest is required to answer truthfully whatever is asked. If I were to go there and start asking questions that were considered to be out of order, they don't know me from anybody. If I walked up and started asking leading questions about the inner secrets of their religion, the priests are required not to answer me, or if they have to lie to me.
Interesting.
And so there's a secretness to the tradition that way that might stand in the way of some of it getting out. But there's no tradition of proselytizing in this religion. They're not trying to make converts. All they're trying to do is preserve intact a body of knowledge that they were given.
Egypt has progressed to be, a very modern society. Have the Dogons kept up with the times, or are they still back in ancient times?
No, they're still fairly primitive, although modern society is encroaching more and more on Dogon life, but they try as much as they can to stick to their long-time traditions. They're not a very wealthy group, and they make a living through their artwork and through agriculture and through metallurgy. But they have not advanced like Egyptian society has advanced.
Do you have an estimate about pertaining to the number of Dogons that there are presently alive?
Yes, there are about 300,000, and they're spread in a number of small villages mainly along this escarpment, this cliff, a long cliff in Mali, in the desert.
300,000 only.
About 300,000, right? Which is actually the same. There's another priestly tribe in China called the Naki, which has functions very similarly. It's a group that set out to find a locale that was very remote, and they are also about 300,000.
Aren't they also the keepers of the world's last surviving hieroglyphic language?
Yes, and that's very interesting because the purpose of my third book is to take a lot of what I know about other ancient traditions, and from what from what they all have and don't have, try to infer what the parent cosmology would have looked like, and then lay out, what the signature aspects of the original cosmology must have looked like. In fact, I originally had called this book The Plan of the Ancient Cosmologies. And then, after having done that, I go to this little tribe in Tibet and China that I had not studied before, and use my plan to predict what I'm going to find with that tribe, and then demonstrate how each element of that plan plays out just as expected.
With all the research that you've done over the years, is there a common thread between all the religions in the world?
All the ancient ones, yes. Especially you can there's certain key aspects you can use, signature aspects you can use to reassure yourself that you're tapped into the same tradition. For example, if the culture had a hieroglyphic language originally, a language that had no vowel sounds, and a language that was based on drawings rather than letters, that's a signature sign of this tradition. If the religion has a creation tradition that centers around the notion of sky being separated from earth, that begins with water, and that centers on the symbol, the Jungian archetypical symbols, the spiraling coils, and the serpents, and the clay pots, the horned animals. These are all signature signs. If I saw one of these elements in a little tribal culture, I would think that culture is part of the same tradition.
What do the Dogon believe happens when they die?
The Dogon say that a person has 4 souls, and that one of those 4 souls, or basically a quarter of your whole soul, remains around locally to look after people that you know. Their religion is not really centered on the idea of death, but aspects of it are considered to be ancestor worship, that they are very, very aware of the people who came before them and trying to honor the tradition of people who came before them. They believe that their dead ancestors are looking out for them and can help them in a beneficial way.
If Dogons are a breakaway group from the Egyptians, how come they haven't built any pyramids, or they haven't made any? Do they believe, or do they exercise mummification?
Okay, the pyramid form starts with, from my way of thinking, based on the cosmology, starts with the Buddhist stupa, and the Dogon build a structure that is essentially a Buddhist stupa called a granary, and this structure can culminate in a round base or a square base. The square base is more like an Egyptian pyramid. The Dogon granary opens 3/4 of the way up, or 2/3 of the way up the north side, like an Egyptian pyramid. And all the symbolism that goes with the Dogon granary matches symbolism that's applied to pyramids around the world. For instance, in South America, a pyramid is conceptualized as a woman lying on her back in such a way that the pyramid there's her womb. The Dogon granary has the same symbolism. The Dogon granary, the faces of the granary represent main star groups, important star groups in the heavens that are used to control the agricultural cycle. And you have that same symbolism attached to pyramids all around the world. So my studies suggest that pyramids evolved out of stupas, basically.
It seems that the correlation between the pyramid and the female is a definite, well, in my opinion, a definite link or tie to the concept of Mother Earth. Yes, and this theme of biological creation that is one of the 3 themes of the creation story. They're talking about how a person gets from fertilized egg to a newborn baby. Yeah. And so
this is just part of the process. The symbolism at the time of where the womb is full like that is fairly far along in that creation process.
Now, the four souls, is this an indicator that they also had a belief in reincarnation?
Only to the extent that they understood that there is a genetic component to things. They believe that part of the makeup of their ancestor is passed on to the ancestor's offspring, and they discuss reincarnation in those terms. They do a lot of things that are genetically based. For example, they feel that the best marital partner for a person is their parents' sibling's child. Now, in our family, I've noticed that the genetics tend to cross that way, that my son is more like my wife's brother, and my daughter is more like my sister. And there's a lot of sort of triangular crossing that way to aunts and uncles and to offspring.
All right, stand by, sir. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Exonation, our special guest is Laird Scranton. Now, if you'd like more information on Laird, you can visit the website as follows: redroom.com/members/Laird Scranton. That's redroom.com/members/Laird Scranton. And Exonation, we're going to be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue our very interesting conversation this hour with Laird Scranton, talking about the Dogons. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone, and we will return. If you'd like to send us an email, don't forget our email address is, all right, you ready? xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hello, I'm Pete Marsh. With my daughter Justina, we will be presenting the new radio show, Too Good to Be True. If something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But with the help of Justina's amazing gifts, we're going to gain insight into questions that don't yet have complete answers. Have you wondered who built Stonehenge and for what reason? Why are crop circles found in the same region as Stonehenge and elsewhere? Are crop circles a hoax, or are they created with technologies that we have little knowledge of? Who built the pyramids in Egypt and also in other countries? How and why were they built? Was the Titanic switched with the Britannic as part of a gigantic insurance fraud, or for more insidious reasons? What caused the Tunguska event when trees were flattened over an 800 square mile area in Siberia? Will the new insights be too good to be true? Well, that will depend on what you are prepared to believe. Please join us as we start on this journey together. For more information on Too Good to Be True, visit www.xzbn.net.
Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies,
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows,
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
Explanation: Laird Scranton is my guest this hour. redroom.com/members/Laird Scranton. All right, Laird, I asked you about mummification because, we were talking about how the Dogons were basically an offshoot of the Egyptians, and did they mummify?
Yes, the Dogon don't actually mummify, although they have a number of concepts in their religion that relate to the Dogon processes of mummification. But what they do is something that many of the most ancient cultures also do, including the Egyptians, and that is bury males on their right-hand side and females on their left-hand side. And so that seems to be the oldest tradition is that process of the tendency to bury a male person on his right side, laying on his right side.
Laying on his right side.
Right.
Any idea why?
It looks to me as if it's just a matter of making it easy to distinguish which type of person it is, from remains. There was a lot that was done in Dogon religion with an eye to somebody later on understanding it. This is part of what drew me into it to begin with. I'm a software designer, and when I write a program for a business, I have to think about what the business wants right this minute, but I also have to think about the programmer who's going to follow me and trying to make it intelligible to someone who may have no idea what I'm talking about. And there's a lot of that in this religious tradition where very careful effort was put in to make sure that somebody like me who came along later would be able to understand what they were talking about.
It's almost as if they want you to know the truth, and they're giving you the information you.
Absolutely they do. And it looks to me as if the purpose of the esoteric tradition wasn't to hide things from us, but was actually to hide things from a higher power that had delegated the teachers of the Dogon. It's as if they had been instructed not to include science in what they taught, and they found a way of including it in a way that their overseers or their whoever was in charge of them, their managers, wouldn't recognize.
So what's next for you? Any more books in the offing?
Yes, actually, I'm most of the way through a new book on Immanuel Velikovsky, if you know who he is. He was the heretic's heretic. In 1950, he wrote a book called Worlds in Collision that created an enormous stir in the astronomic world, and I'm sort of updating that controversy with new evidence.
Laird, I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great pleasure to talk to you. I hope that we were able to meet again here in the X Zone, but until then, I wish you much success, and thank you very much for sharing this most interesting hour about the Dogons with us. You take care of yourself now. Great talking to you. Exonation, Laird Scranton has been my guest this hour. redroom.com/members/Laird Scranton. And we've been talking to Laird about his most recent book entitled The Cosmological Origins of Myth and Symbol, From the Dogon and Ancient Egypt to India, Tibet, and China. I'll be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, here from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away now.